Hello everyone, my name is David Allen Gay, and you're watching the 24th episode of David Needs a Job. If someone were to ask, do you have any regrets in life? How would you answer? Well, in my case, I would have no problem with saying, I do have a few regrets in life. I wish I could do certain things over. I wish I could have said something differently than what I said in the past. I wish I could have chosen a different direction than the choice I made in the past. There's nothing wrong with admitting that to yourself. It's being truthful to yourself and being honest with yourself. Now, before I continue with this video, if you're hearing a background grinding and drilling sound, I want to apologize for that. Yes, it is still my landlord doing the outside of the building that the company's been working on for the past 2 months. It's something that I simply had to put up with as part of my job search. Unfortunately, my resources, my internet access are inside this building, and I still have to do my job search whether there's grinding or not going on outside. So, before I continue, I apologize for the audio quality that you're about to hear today. Moving on, there are people who will say to the question, no, I have no regrets whatsoever. My life has gone exactly as I planned. All the choices that I've made, I'm happy with. All the outcomes that have happened, I anticipated. Those people are deluding themselves, whether they realize it or not. Human beings are such creative liars and deceivers, especially to our own selves. We have the almost instinctual and unconscious ability to rewrite our history and our collective memories of what happened in the past and alter it a little bit so that it seems palatable and more acceptable to who we are as people. I, however, don't have that sort of censoring. I do remember very clearly what I've done in the past, and while I'm very happy with most of the decisions I've made in my life, there are some decisions that I've made I wish I could go back in time and change. One of the regrets I do have involves something in my IT career. And before I continue, I should stress that this regret did not lead to my unemployment situation through a firing or being asked to leave. I've stressed many times in my videos and in my blog posts at davidallengay.wordpress.com that I was not fired from my last job. I was not asked to leave. I left on extremely good terms with my employer. My employer is, in fact, one of my many references that give good light to my past career as an IT professional. So I want to say that and get that out of the way before moving on and telling you about my regret. This particular regret I had, which pertains to something I did in the IT field. I didn't even know I had or realized until I think a couple of years into my unemployment situation. It was the fall of 2012, and it was at its importance. I was enjoying a coffee and a cheese bagel. It's one of the few pleasures in life I can enjoy and afford, because when you're a job seeker, you don't really have a lot of income coming in, and what you do have and that you can afford, you tend to hang on to it and cherish it a great deal. So there's a lot of introspection and self-evaluation as to what's going on in your life. And I realized that there was one thing that I did do in the IT field I now wish I never did, and I never was a part of. And to explain what that is, I have to go back to the very beginning of how my IT career started. My first real IT job was a computer operator, day and night shift at a paint company. And this happened during the late 1980s. And you have to understand something. During this time period, there was no internet, there was no fiber optics, there was no peer-to-peer service. The ability for one computer to connect to another computer was done through modems over a phone line. And in those days, the connection speed was 300 to 1200 baud, so pretty slow stuff. There was also the issue of portability. You don't have the iPads or the notebooks of today. you had computers that were basically the size and weight of a portable sewing machine. And I was given one of those computers as part of my job description to take home with me to my place, which in those days I was still living with my parents. So I'm bringing home this very heavy portable sewing machine sized computer to connect to the phone line so I can check on some things at work. And my father saw it for the first time, and I knew just by looking at his face that he hated the idea of this thing coming home with me. Not because it tied up the phone line. He was pretty forgiving about that. What irked him and what bothered him was that he was the type of man that delineated work from personal life. He understood work-life balance before it was even coined in the media. He was the guy that believed that working very hard, 9 to 5, giving it your all, doing your best, but when that whistle blows, you go home and you don't think about work until the following day. You enjoy your personal free time. So he hated me bringing this computer home and hooking it into the computers at work so I can check on my situation as a computer operator, my duties, especially since I didn't get paid for it. But at the same time, I was a young, idealistic man. I considered myself a futurist. And I tried explaining to my dad, well, Dad, this is the way of the future now. You will have the ability to log in from home and to do your work remotely when computers become more sophisticated, so that instead of working a 9 to 5 day, you might be able to work 2 hours here, 3 hours there, maybe another 3 hours there, and in between those particular gaps of flexibility, you can do other things. You could raise a family, you can contribute to society, you could study art, poetry, history. We will become an enlightened species because computer technology would allow us to do things in a quicker amount of time and no longer locked into the standard model of a workday. And he just looked at me and he shook his head like, you're not getting it. And I really wish I'd listened to him because he turned out to be right. I didn't really understand what my father was trying to say to me until much, much later into my IT career, where as technology progressed, there was no need to bring these heavy machines home with us. The computers became lighter and smaller. We started including devices like tablets and phones into the network. You could even take a person's personal computer and by installing a special VPN client, you can turn that into a professional machine to do work on. And I gleefully accepted that as part of my job description. I made it my practice to be a part of that revolution as an IT professional, to empower people, to empower the users, to be able to work from home and get work done without having to come into the office, especially if they had personal obligations that they had to take care of outside of the job. I considered myself a big part of that, and I was very proud of being a part of that. What I did not realize was that I was giving employers in specific and companies in general the tools to do two things, both to the detriment of workers today. The first thing that I was giving them was a tool to pile more and more work on the desk of workers and expecting them to do it in the same time period without increasing the person's pay. This had a profound impact on the work-life balance that my dad spoke about. The ability to enjoy your life after the whistle blew and you went home for the day. The very idea and notion of what a work day was began to blur because it was now the employer's rationale and reasoning that because you can work from home, your day did not finish at 5 o'clock. Your day finished when we said your day was done. The other thing that happened as a result of my efforts and the efforts of thousands, or rather hundreds of thousands of IT professionals like myself, was that employers began to believe in the mantra that they now chant on a regular basis through the support and cooperation of career coaches and employment specialists. We got to do more with less. We've got to cut our HR costs. They started to devalue the human potential as
consumable asset on a balance sheet. They rationalized that we did not need all of these people anymore. We did not need hundreds of people. We could cut our department size down, amalgamate, right size, downsize, upsize, whatever you want to call it, into a handful of people and give these remaining people the ability to do more work, with less people. And that too had a further impact on the work-life balance, because now these people are incredibly stressed out. They are being asked to do this incredible amount of work that only one person used to do. Now they're doing the work of maybe 3 or 4 people, and they're expected to do this without being given thanks or even a pay increase. They have no time to take their vacation. They have to balance their own personal obligations against their work. Otherwise, they will lose their job, and someone else will step in and take in the void. It was not until years later, when I found myself unemployed on that cold, gray November day in 2012, that I finally realized what my father was trying to tell me, and I was too dumb to realize. My dad was not a technocrat. He was not a futurist, but he was a very smart, wise, and clever man. He was decades ahead of his time in terms of what this technology meant. And I, like a fool, did not see it. The irony of this whole situation has not been lost on me. In fact, you could say it's almost a cruel joke. I, as an IT professional, and along with hundreds of thousands of IT professionals, was an agent of change that brought about the situation that we're in right now. Why so many people who are still working and are still lucky to have a job are so incredibly stressed out and are having a hard time trying to balance their personal life with their professional life. And why someone like myself is now out of work and is having so much trouble trying to get back into work.
For that, I am guilty for being this agent of change in bringing remote communications to workers that was supposed to make people's lives easier, and instead has made lives a lot more difficult for both people who are working and for people like myself who are out of work. Not only do I have a regret, I certainly owe those people an apology. That is my say for today. Thank you very much for watching this episode of David Needs a Job, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.